Welcome, everyone, to the fierce compassion of the divine feminine, entering the era of the Empress, where individuals across the globe are discovering how to embody the Empress by living a life of compassion, character, courage, and grace. I'm your host, Kathy Forrest, founder of Celestial Forest Institute. And we're here today. It's my great honor and privilege to be here today with Anaiya Sophia. Welcome, sweetheart. So glad you're here.
So amazing to be with you, Kathy, again.
So I can't wait to dive into all of Anaiya's background. She is a writer, a mythologist, a minister, and a whisperer of sacred wisdom. Her highly acclaimed books, courses, transmissions, and workshops are focused on the development of the mythical imagination and on the relevance of myths, fairy tales, and folk traditions to personal, cultural, and environmental problems that we face today. She has an intense relationship with the land, especially the French Pyrenees, Egypt, and Ireland. All of her work, writing, transmitting, storytelling, and teaching springs from an irresistible intimacy with the land, which is rooted in as much as the myths and the stories of the place as it is with the detailed knowledge of the physical and historical environment. She's currently working on Mary Magdalene's audio guide to the south of France, an evocative and expressive partnering with the mythic imagination and the land itself. Anaiya has led workshops throughout Europe and North America, and now you will find her at home with her husband and mother in the mountains, where they have taken on an almighty project, which I have been following, by the way. The restoration of an old Catholic summer house for children into the White Rose Mystery School, complete with a chapel, bed and breakfast, vegan cafe, and apothecary of body rituals and animal sanctuary. They produce a large proportion of their own food, keeping goats, sheep, pigs, and poultry in a large and thriving permaculture garden food, a permaculture garden food forest. That long, hard work, which requires her to be outside in all weathers, tending to other living things, as well as continuing daily needs for long walks to explore old, forgotten Cathar paths, caves, and mountains, has blessed her with a deep and nourishing sense of connectedness to the spirit of place that she feels drawn to share with others. Okay, and I lost my place. There's so much, because there's so much to tell. There's so many changes that have happened. They produce, or excuse me, I'm gonna skip on down here. Over time, she's developed an oral message that stirs the remembrance of a continuous lineage with the feminine principle that throughout the centuries has preserved its spiritual dignity without the need for permission or recognition from any other source. She is here to deepen your spiritual journey and to offer you a safe place while doing so. Anaiya lives in the Cathar region of southern France with her beloved husband, Pete Wilson. Together, they run Les Contes. Say that for us, please.
Les Contes.
Les Contes, a B&B at the base of Montségur, where individuals, families, and large groups can come and stay. And oh my goodness, we could talk all day about the changes that have happened to you. But your topic, which is amazing, is the Kaliak's veil, unveiling the wisdom of the dark months. So, my friend, tell us just a little bit before we dive into your topic about where you are and what happened and why you changed your name.
Well, the first thing I'd love to say, Kathy, whilst you were reading all of that out, is I was like giggling to myself on the inside going, oh, I've so obviously gone through menopause. I just want to put that out to the ladies that are on the threshold or in the middle and struggling.
Mhm.
These massive changes can be yours
Right.
if you just let it happen.
Yeah.
The name change from Anaiya to
Mhm.
Alethea is also part of this washing machine I've been going through.
Mhm.
And Alethea is the old Greek word for a very loving truth. So truth, very direct, but in the velvety presence of love.
Mhm.
And every time I hear it, it's like, how you doing?
Yep.
Yeah, and again, in the menopause would have been the loss of dad.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was very close. I am very close to my father. So it's everything, and we're going to talk about the Kaliak today. And this is her work.
Mhm.
The thorough emptying of your youthful years, your motherhood,
Mhm.
your family life, your everything, a thorough emptying.
Mhm.
And then I don't think I'm fully complete yet, but I would certainly say the majority of me has been transformed.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful transformation. I've been watching from afar through Facebook and the videos about what's it called? We bought uh
Oh,
what
help! We brought a village.
yeah, you bought a village and she did. So define for us the Kaliak. I believe I'm saying that right. What is that?
Well, the Kaliak.
Kaliak. Okay.
The Kaliak is part of Irish mythology, but truthfully, it's even older than Celtic mythology. By
Wow.
the time the Celts came to Ireland, they were already aware of the Kaliak.
Wow.
It is a very ancient, primordial, let's just say goddess of winter or goddess of death and renewal. She's very, very aged.
Mhm.
She is slightly bald and has long, raggedy hair.
Mhm.
She's got one bright blue eye that sees everything on the
Mhm.
outside, and
Mhm.
she has a white, blinded eye
Mhm.
that sees everything on the inside.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, she is hunchbacked and bow-legged, but her agility and vitality is like that of a child. So
Wow.
you're like, oh, what is this?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I I want to bring her across in such a way that we don't think, oh, she is a goddess.
Mhm.
Yes, she is, but she's also a force.
Mhm. She sounds
Let's
like a
just take
force.
that female appearance away, and
Mhm.
now let's meet the actual force
Mhm.
behind that.
Wow. So what
Yeah.
does she do? What is she about?
Well, I was in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Mhm.
Um, the experience I had with her was a radical and honest truth telling.
Mhm.
Um, Also, the approach of reaching her was terrifying. I was in my little hire car. I was on the Beara Peninsula, so I was in a really remote finger of Ireland that
Mhm.
stretches out into the Atlantic.
Mhm.
And it was your classic Irish weather. It
Mhm.
was winding, it was howling, there was an amber warning, don't be on the roads unless it's necessary. And
Mhm.
I'm looking for a standing stone
Oh,
in the
wow.
middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And, I would have said 9.5 out of 10 people would have turned back
Right? Yeah.
because it was so existentially scary.
Yeah.
But I had to because I went to Ireland to connect with my ancestors because my father's Irish,
Mhm.
thinking I would be connecting with grandfather and great grandfather and great grandmother,
Mhm.
humans. But it wasn't that. It was the mythology. It was the fairies. It was the Kaliak.
Wow.
So it's those invisible ones that are everyday language to the Irish people.
Wow.
You know, these deities are like, yeah, of course. You know, from school teachers to bankers to people in the post office, everyone believes in these deities.
Right.
When I say she is the goddess of winter, her presence, I feel, is getting quite apparent now with this idea of energy crisis.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
in Europe at the moment, all the cities are becoming dark at 10 o'clock.
Whoa. Wow.
And for a lot of folk, this is like,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it, yeah, it is,
Mhm.
but in the mythic imagination, and that's what I mean. It's so important to have the mythic imagination because it's a refuge.
Mhm.
Because if we don't have anywhere to go whilst all this starts happening,
Mhm.
we're going to get pretty undone pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So when the lights go off at 10, I'm like, here she comes. um, it's that uneasy feeling. Why have the lights gone out?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
why is scarcity coming? You know, we're being backed into a corner.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
being backed into a corner, I believe, to sincerely be renewed.
Yeah. Yeah. So she sounds like a healer. She sounds like she makes us go in and get into the dark place,
Yes,
to create renewal. And
yes,
so, and it feels like maybe that's happening for the whole planet.
yes, it does. It definitely feels like it. You know, Kaliak is having her way with us all.
Mhm.
It's dragging us into that winter of
Mhm.
renewal.
Mhm.
One of the things about Kaliak is if you turn to her for healing or insight or prophecy or oracle, um, she will she will require an action afterwards to balance your relationship with nature and the
Mm.
spirit world. And if you don't do it, that's why I had to get there. If
Mhm.
I if I said, right, okay, Kaliak, I'm going to come and see you today, despite the
Mhm.
storm and the weather warning, and I
Mhm.
go, nah, not really. I'm afraid.
Mhm.
I know
Cool.
not to do that.
Right, right. So
Uh,
what was it like when you arrived?
oh my gosh, I was terrified. I was afraid. I was holding on to my hat, thinking it was going to get blown off and into the Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean in Ireland is wild. It's insane. Any wave could catch you. And
Wow.
where I was, it's called the Bearer Hag, and it's a standing stone. And she's right on the edge, looking for her beloved to come in from sea.
Wow.
So there's wind, there's clouds, there's waves,
Wow.
there's mist. Um, so, you know, by the time I reached her, I was actually rather authentic, very, very humble.
Right.
And also, I went to her in grief because of dad. And so
Mhm.
I literally grabbed onto this standing stone and was
Mhm.
not going to let go in case I got dragged out into sea,
Mhm.
and just went, here I am. I'm too afraid. I'll always remember this. I said, I'm too afraid to formulate a sentence. I think it's going to be muddled and confused.
Mhm.
But if you feel my heart,
Mhm.
you will know who I am and why I've come. And I just went, "Ugh."
Oh, bless your heart. Only you, sweetheart. And it almost to me epitomizes the metamorphosis you've been through. It's like you had to do that to walk where you've walked, to take on
Yeah,
what you've taken on. Um, And, I think it's interesting that as humans, we don't like the dark. We
No,
rage against the darkness. Um, what would you say to a world that is doing that right now?
I would say it would be wise to stop, turn, and face it voluntarily,
Mhm,
because as the light's going off.
mhm,
We will probably have to turn and face it involuntarily. So it's best we go in now,
mhm.
with a sense that this is absolutely on point and on time,
Yeah.
and to get into those existential fears, just
Mhm,
to feel them, not
mhm,
to make a story, not to fix, not to solve,
mhm,
but to feel the scarcity, to feel the aloneness,
mhm.
fragility of life,
Yeah.
the knowing that death and dying is coming,
Mhm,
whether we reach a nice ripe old age
mhm.
or it may come sooner.
Yeah.
I think one of the most delicious imaginings I have is that once I have passed over, hopefully no one's going to be tampering with my body too much. I don't know why, but I've got this wonderful idea that I'm going to die here in the house and no one will find me. But I think of, the rotting down process,
Mhm, mhm,
and that, I will become part of the earth.
mhm.
This morning I actually picked up an adult badger that
Whoa.
freshly not run over, hit
Mhm,
in the head, because I could
mhm,
see there was a little bit of car beside him.
mhm,
But no bleeding, just absolutely
mhm,
hit from one end of the road to the other.
mhm,
And I brought him back to the garden, back to a little bridge, which has
mhm.
now become Badger's Bridge.
Oh, sweet.
But every day we will walk past with goats, and every day that badger's body will be rotting down, and already it's smelling pretty strong.
Mhm,
And so that's what I mean, hoping that something like that could happen to me or Petey,
mhm.
rather than the clinical,
Yeah.
hospitalized,
Mhm,
hospitalized
mhm.
way of disposing of a body.
Yeah, for sure. So you speak about, in some of the questions you sent me, you speak about the fact that we may falsely light up the world rather than plunging into darkness. And forgetting the Kaliak, we have created on a global scale, the same false positivity that we can fall into in our personal lives. Can you speak into that a little bit? The false positivity?
Well, for me, being in the spiritual community, that would be spiritual bypassing, that would be the new age, that would be wishful thinking, fantasy thinking,
Mhm.
imagining it's never going to happen to us in the West. That's how we were a few
Right.
years ago.
Mhm,
It's now caught up with us. It
mhm,
is happening to us in the West.
mhm,
This huge transformation will reach everybody, every home, every family, every person. Um, I still look at social media and go, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I can't believe that people are still doing this little pointy thing,
mhm,
you
mhm,
know, 10 ways for a happy marriage, you
mhm,
know, 10 ideas how to be a man.
mhm. Right? Yeah,
I cannot believe this material is still in someone's headspace.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, that. I'm
Mhm.
talking about that.
Gotcha.
Maybe I'm old fashioned. Maybe I really am in my elderhood now. And all I'm doing is I'm looking back at the young going, oh my God, hello. But it's that which I'm talking about, this false light, like the street lights.
Mhm,
The cities will not go into darkness.
mhm,
They'd rather light the whole thing up that can be seen from, deep outer space,
mhm.
rather than be in the dark.
Yeah.
And what do we do of a similar nature?
Hmm.
When I went to Ireland,
Hmm.
I went with Mum, obviously, and
Hmm.
there was one being Airbnb
Hmm.
where we didn't have separate rooms.
Hmm.
We had a double bed. I was
Uh-huh.
like, yeah. And she was
Right.
like, oh, it'll be lovely to sleep with you again. And I was like, oh. Anyway, we got in, and she said, can you give me a little cuddle? And I went, oh, yeah, of course, because, Dad was her cuddler.
Right.
And I said, okay. So, I'm spooning her from behind. And I said, switch the light off then. And she went, oh, no, I don't sleep with the light off. Yeah, but her reason was she needs to see where the toilet is.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's probably a wise reason.
But I was really struggling with
Mhm.
falling to sleep with the light on. This was just like so no.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I love the dark, deep black.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So, it's like inner questions. Where do I leave the light on?
Mhm.
And how real is that light?
Yeah. Wow. Those are deep when you think about them. Um, how would so when you're thinking about all of us and as we, moving into the era of the Empress, it isn't going to be the big flashy lights, 10 ways to become a better person. It's going to be something different.
Yes. Yeah.
So, how, if you were going to coach someone on moving into that place, what would you tell them?
Hmm. I would begin by blowing their minds wide open, saying the two greatest forces in your life
Mhm.
are the light and the dark.
Mhm.
When they come together in equal measure, that is when growth is on the horizon. And I would say that darkness and despair and all those uncomfortable feelings are actually great and focused allies.
Mhm.
They will deliver.
Yeah.
And that they are working in harmony. The light and the dark are working in respectful harmony right now to produce or insist upon a new, more authentic you.
Mhm.
And stop battling the darkness,
Yeah.
stop rising up against it and delaying it and pushing it back and
Mhm.
trying to annihilate it yourselves, get rid of it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I'd probably
Sure.
begin there.
Sure. How would a person lean in to the darkness? How would they invite it? I don't think we know how. I mean, we've spent
Yeah.
so much time doing just the opposite.
Hmm. I've noticed that if I try to conjure up the authentic darkness,
Mhm.
or like, I'm ready to do some shadow work.
Mhm.
Shadow will come, I've noticed in my opinion, but it's not really the version
Mhm.
you might be hoping for.
Right.
It's not your shadow, but
Mhm.
something's coming. And
Mhm.
you think, oh my God, this is my shadow. But
Mhm.
it might not be.
Mhm.
It's so hard to word this. When it is an authentic time for the dark night of the soul, it's your time, you're being called. Dark
Mhm.
night on the horizon.
Mhm.
There is something about that process that is familiar, recognizable. You don't like it, but
Mhm.
you trust it. You know why it's here.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that is when I say the darkness, that's what I'm referring to. The other thing I think I'm referring to, I think is the old fashioned word evil.
Yeah.
That'll come. Oh, no problem. But that I feel is a little bit endless
Right.
and there is no end to the bottom of that pit.
Mhm.
So when you say, how do we bring the darkness? I don't think we do.
Mhm.
It comes when it's your time.
Yeah.
We can do things like, walk around in the dark, refuse to put lights on,
Mhm.
have a bath in the dark,
Mhm.
sit in a cave, go on a darkness retreat, with a blindfold.
Mhm.
But that's just sense
Yeah.
deprivation.
Mhm.
That's you're getting somewhere, but actually, no, you're not. Yeah, there's nothing we can do, I believe, to
Mhm.
invoke it.
Mhm.
It will come.
Yeah. So what
So
would you go ahead? Did
I
you
was
start?
going to say, it'll probably come a couple of times in a lifetime.
Mhm.
A few good, thorough clean outs.
Mhm.
People
Mhm.
say dark night of the soul, it only happens once. It hasn't for me. No, I think three to 4 to 5 is
Yeah.
more realistic.
Yeah.
Little
I
drive-bys.
totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I can remember a time in my life where I used to be deathly afraid of that.
Mm,
Not so much. You got a
no,
Scorpio rising. Now I know what's coming, and I can't say that I look forward to it, but I can welcome it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, so your free gift is the wisdom of the well in the other world.
Yes. So the other world in Celtic mythology is where we find the Kaliak. So
Gotcha.
it's this little parallel world, very, very close to the
Mhm.
human one, but completely out of sight. We cannot sense. Well, we can sense it actually, but not
Mhm.
when we're operating in our normal mode.
Mhm.
This is quite a potent transmission.
Yeah.
Where you get to drink from the well, which is the source of all waters
Mhm.
on this earth. But first, there's a little bit of a grail test.
Yeah.
It's very, very traditional in the Celtic sense,
Mhm.
meaning a nice little pinch of light and a nice little pinch of dark. There will be times where it's a little bit frightening
Mhm.
because we're invoking that Kaliak again. There has to be a death. There has to be a
Mhm.
for the renewal to come. And when that renewal comes, it will be rich, it will be strong, and it will be yours.
Yeah.
And she will not be so fearsome anymore.
Mhm.
Because the thing is, it's not like a deity is going to like go, come in from behind. Oh, wow, the Kaliak.
Mhm.
She's already in us.
Yep.
So that terrifying psychic feminine force,
Mhm.
whoa, it's part of our makeup, men
Yeah.
and women.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
What would you say to our listeners if you wanted to give them, an admonishment? What would you say to them around this topic?
I'm going to have to be really honest here and say, what does that word mean? And what does admonishment mean?
um, if you would encourage them in some way.
Around this top of the Empress or the Kaliak?
Mhm.
Which one? Or both?
Or both. I mean, the Kaliak first, and then maybe the Empress. I think at this point, I think they could be one and the same.
Yes, most definitely.
Mhm.
I would say to find your modality of accessing the mythical. I call it the mythical imagination, the other world.
Mhm.
I have noticed again since Ireland
Mhm.
that it feels really important to me to learn Irish,
Right.
the old language.
Mhm.
Whenever I hear it, I'm like, And I've got a silly little app which I'm learning. But when I say the words, my cells go brrr and point to something. I feel something. I would look within and sense your history and ask yourself, what bloodline am I in? Is there some Spanish? Is there some Portuguese? Is there some Irish? Is there some African dialect? And if you don't know that language, start learning that language and maybe go as far back as possible. Like, you know, I might turn to Celtic language, Viking language. You know, I'm into the myths. I mean, my big myth at the moment is the Tower of Babel. Once upon a time, apparently all us humans, we all talk the one and the same language. And not only that, we understood one another clearly and profoundly. There was never misunderstanding because the words were so on point to what we wanted to say that we immediately could be heard and a vision would appear in the other person's head and communication was sweet. But something, there's that question again, who, what, where, and when, something decided that wasn't going to be anymore. And so many, many languages were dropped into the people. And not only that, they were then scattered across the earth. What if we could remember that one language? And maybe what it is crystal clear, conscious use of words. You know, in Irish, in English, you would say, thank you. In Irish, I can't remember the word now, but the translation of it, of thank you, is may a million thanks be upon you.
Wow.
Same understanding, universe of difference.
Right.
And I want to learn the one that says, may a million thanks be upon you.
Exactly. Beautiful.
You see what I mean? That means so much to the fellow human.
Yeah. So this feels like, and you know, it's kind of piggybacking on all the other people that I've interviewed. It's like a deepening of our humanity, a deepen, you know, a going within and going back to the roots so that we're not up here in the superficial anymore. We're deep inside of us. And that's just yummy to me. Yummy.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of this has awakened for you just since you've been on the land that you're on. It was already there, but it's really rooted now.
Yes. Where I live, Kathy, my intensity is the number of people who come through the house. That's my edge. I'm an only child, and I have never lived with people apart from partners. Every now and again. Never had a housemate.
Right.
Never lived with a bunch of people because I don't want to.
I don't blame you. I'm right there with you.
So, you know, my edge right now is that there are, you know, over the course of the year, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people coming in and out of the house, which keeps me really on the edge of intensity.
Right.
It's like I'm on the edge of my flipping identity. You know, I say to myself, how much more can I take?
Right.
And then from that dark place, because it's dark, I cry out in prayer for humongous assistance and softening. Please give me the courage in my heart to withstand this amount of people around me at all times. Okay, says the light. And then I wake up in the morning and I'm able to do it again. So you see what I mean?
Yes.
I'm in that frictionless place.
Yeah, for sure. Sister, I am so glad you came to speak with us and share
Uh,
this wisdom with us. Like I said, I watch you from afar. I keep tabs on you all the time. I'm living vicariously through you as I've watched what you're growing, and it is amazing. And we
thank
thank
you.
you so much for bringing this wisdom to us, because not all of us are willing to go to that dark place. And
Mm,
it's like you have gone and come back and you're still alive and present and here to tell about it.
yeah.
And we are so grateful for that, and grateful for the wisdom that you bring back with you when you go. If people want to get a hold of you, I'm sure they can find you through your website and through the both websites. We'll put them both on your page this time. Is there anything you would like to leave with our people? Any closing words that you'd like to say?
Well, it's if you look here,
I see that. What is that?
it's got a missing tooth. As I was having this moment with the Kaliak in
Mhm,
Ireland, I
mhm.
was like, oh,
Oh my goodness.
flippant. I mean, the thing is, I've been to the dentist, it's all been cleaned out. But there's a part of me now that is not rushing to
Mhm.
get it filled.
I hear you.
It's like, no, I quite like this.
I
I
love
mean,
it.
I mean, it just shatters the whole priestess goddess thing.
Right?
But I got to think about when it happened. This is, I mean, of course, the Kaliak has lots and lots of missing teeth.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I'm gonna, get a little implant or
Right,
something. It's
right,
like, I kind of like it.
right,
It's like the Kaliak was here.
right, for sure. Well, and I just think of her deep wisdom, and I just go, she's not scary, and she's actually empowered you in so many ways.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe that's just your mark. Maybe she
it
marked
might be. It might be.
it. I love it. I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being with us, for sharing your wisdom from the edge of the world and bringing it back for all of us. We love what you're doing for the planet, and we love the seeds you're planting. So just keep planting.
Thank you, Kathy. Likewise, my friend. Thank you for these amazing summits, gathering us together. Oh, such food for the soul. Thank you.
All right, my dear. I don't know what I've done down here. I'm going to cancel that and do this instead.